All right, we are now live on YouTube, Hugh.
All right. I think today the best thing that we can do for training is to open it up, first of all, to any questions or concerns and kind of go from there. That's usually the best way for me to help you guys and train you on anything that you need to know about the processing or any of the methods. So if we could open it up to questions, that'd be great.
If anyone has any questions, you can use your virtual hand raise or you can shoot it over in the chat for us to read out loud. All right, looks like we've got Chris Sanchez. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Gotcha. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Hugh. As always, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Yep.
I know you mentioned it before. I was looking over my notes, but I couldn't find it. What is, and this is hypothetical, but what is the lowest rate that we can give somebody for payment processing? If they meet all the criteria that needs to be met, what is the best rate that we can present to them?
If you go with a traditional program, the general rule is 2% on retail and about 2.5 to 2.75 on anything e-commerce. But if they move over to the dual pricing, the convenience fee model, then it's free. So you could start at free and tell them, hey, we can make this happen. That's the best program that we can possibly do for anybody. And then on traditional, depending on what kind of business they are and what mix of cards they're taking. And the reason that I say that is, let's say you have a coffee shop that is using Square or Stripe or any of those guys. Square and Stripe and PayPal and all of them have a flat rate program. They charge 3% or 3.5% on every transaction. So that hurts the small ticket places and it hurts everybody because you're not getting the true what we call interchange. And interchange means the hard cost that every processor in the country gets from Visa and MasterCard. So the hard cost, to give you an example, the hard cost on a debit card that I get, which means that's what you get, is 0.05%. So it's almost free. And 22 cents on the transaction. So if Stripe, Square, any of those guys are charging a flat fee of 3.5, you can do the math on that, take 0.05 away from 3.5, and they're making 3.45% on that transaction. Now on the other side, the high side, let's say that a store or whatever takes a card that costs 3.25 and they're charging 3.5, then they're only making 25 basis points or 1/4%. So that's why it's always good to get your customers educated and say, hey, if you're not paying true interchange costs plus whatever our processor puts on it based on the risk category that they have, then you're not getting treated fairly. So if they're not interested in doing the dual pricing or surcharging model where it's free, then we can always do that. And honestly, every processor out there will tell you this. There generally is not a processing program that they're getting charged a flat rate that any processor can beat. So we can definitely beat those rates. Hopefully that answers the question.
No, it does. And with e-commerce, I don't know if you're familiar with Techtown in Detroit.
Who's that?
If you're familiar with Techtown in Detroit.
Techtown?
Yeah.
No, what do they do?
It's a building that houses nothing but e-commerce businesses.
Okay.
I was there briefly, but is there any specific or on the opposite end e-commerce businesses that we want to stay away from?
Here's what I told one of the reps the other day, and they may be on here today. I don't see it, but when you are when you are evaluating whether or not you think a bank would take that particular kind of business's business, if you're dealing with a escort service, what do you think the answer is? Will the bank take it?
No.
Okay, high risk will, but the bank won't. If you're running a limousine company that is hiding the fact that they're an escort service, you think they'll take them?
No.
Okay. You think a restaurant, think the banks will take them?
No.
The restaurants will take them all day long.
Ah,
I'm just saying, just think of the riskiest, sketchiest businesses out there are going to be high risk. We can get them done, but it's a pain in the neck to get them done. You'd be better off spending your time talking to restaurants, talking to other businesses on Main Street USA and any online business. Another tip that I always tell all my reps is whatever you are most familiar with. If you're the most familiar with, let's say you're a golfer and you are very familiar with the lingo in the industry and you understand what things cost, just go out on and Google golf stores online. If you did that right now, you'd probably come back with 7 million results. Go right down the list and just dial every single one of them and say, can I talk to your controller or your owner? Generally, that's going to be pretty darn tough to get through that. But, just tell the gatekeeper that you're talking to that we have a program that can save you all of your credit card processing fees. If they're interested, I can, and if they say, send me an email to info@.com, I say, I'm not doing that because it's going to go in the wastebasket. I am not wasting my time even to type out an email to you. I would like you to give me your controller's number, your accountant's number, or an owner's number. If you can do that for me, we can continue the conversation. If not, you're just wasting your time anyway. And you don't have to be mean about it. You just got to tell them, I know where emails go to the general mailbox. Delete, 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 delete. And you never get anywhere. So
and
the businesses that you see up and down Main Street USA, those are prime candidates for any of us to walk into and say, hey, do you need help with your merchant services? And like I said, you always want to get back to how much are you paying in fees? Every merchant knows that number. So whatever that is, if they're doing $100,000 worth of volume, but they're getting charged $3,000, they're at 3%. They're too high, depending on the industry. Okay. So that they're at a 3%, and right then, hey, I can save you. If you want to stick with traditional, I can save you probably 0.5%, which is pretty significant on $100,000. So, if you're doing $100,000 times 2.5%, you're saving $500 a month. So, and then that's 6,000 a year. So if you're interested in saving that money, next step, I need you to get me your 3 statements or we don't go forward. We can't because the bank won't even look at it. I know how to look at it. You know how to look at it, but they do not know, the bank is not going to look at it because they're going to go, hey, everything you're telling me is great. But until I see it on a piece of paper that says this is what they're doing monthly, I can't react.
and what is the minimum, the bare minimum that we can work with for monthly charges? 50,000?
You're talking about volume?
Yes.
The volume is irrelevant. I mean, I had one the other day through DAC that came to me that was doing that. I said, how much do you think you're going to be doing in a month's period of time? And they said $250. I said, I'm going to recommend that you stay with a Stripe or a Square or whatever, because our monthly fees would be more than what they take in. So usually the threshold to make money for you and for DAC, probably 10,000 a month. Somewhere right around there.
Oh, that's good. Thank you, Hugh.
All right, thanks.
All right, we've got a few more hands up. Nick Dehame, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Hugh, it's
Hey,
Nick. Can you
Nick.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, sir. And
Yeah.
just real quick question regarding, for example, restaurants, the restaurant industry. Restaurants already in the market, already using dual pricing, but with Clover and Square, the competitive advantage for us there, is it better off where would you direct the conversation in those situations?
Clover, for all the people on here, you obviously know what it is, Nick, but Clover is a closed system. Clover is owned by Visa, MasterCard, and Fiserv. Fiserv is most likely the largest processor in the nation. It's spelled Fiserv. They used to be called First Data, so Fiserv First Data. They own the Clover systems. So when you go in there and you're talking to somebody that already has Clover, the biggest hurdle that you're going to face is that in order for them to come with us and keep the same exact Clover situation, let's say they're doing Clover on a traditional pricing program that has that they're paying, let's say 3%, and we can knock them down to 2.5, but they've got 5 terminals, 5 POS systems in their store. They most likely have spent somewhere in the neighborhood of about 7,500 to 10,000 to buy those terminals. Clover has a rule that if you switch away from Clover number 1 to Nick Clover number 2, you have to buy all new equipment because the other equipment only works with that merchant, which is a crazy rule, but that's how they get a lot of business. That's how they keep a lot of business, because if you're the business owner and I tell them, hey, you can switch to us to save 500 a month, but you got to pay 7,500 divided by 500. You got a 15-month payback. Most people will say, I'm not interested. Thank you very much. With that in mind now, with any restaurant or any bar or any place like that, the best thing you can do for me to get me to help you, take pictures of the POS system behind the bar or at the counter and pay attention when the screen changes. Take a picture of that and ask the bartender or ask the waitresses or ask the owners, what POS system are you using? Some of them are closed, like Clover, and you and I will never get in there unless I have a relationship with that particular POS company where I can go in and say, okay, we're taking that away from the POS salesperson that has it. If they're still around, they won't let us take it. But if they're not around anymore, I can call ABC POS company and say, hey, is Bob Smith still there? They go, no, he quit a long time ago. All right, can I go after that account? Yeah, as long as you keep it with ABC POS, then we'll let you have the deal and you can give them whatever pricing you want.
All right, and next we've got Leo S. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. This is the last hand up.
Thank you. Quick. I just went and got some work done at the mechanic shop, new place, and I asked him about his payment processing. And he mentioned something right away. He kind of had like a quick answer, and I don't know. Well, he said, "Oh, my brother-in-law works for Wells." So it sound like that's how he got his payment processing system. So obviously that would be a slight difficulty there, probably because of the relationship. But what are we looking at when he says something like that? I mean, how difficult would that be?
If he's got a family member that's already doing their credit card processing and they say we're good, we're sticking with them, move along.
Yeah, well, no, he didn't say that specifically, but he just said, "Oh yeah, my brother." But he made me feel like his brother-in-law was the one to get him to it, and obviously, yeah, he probably would have. He probably is going to ask his brother-in-law, should he go somewhere else? So yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's let me see your statements. Let me see what whoever the relative is, or your brother, or your sister, or your mom, or your dad. Let me see it, and I'll tell you. I won't say anything negative about a family member, but I'll say, hey, you're paying X. I can do it for this. Your call.
Yeah.
And if they're smart, they'll go back to their brother, mother, sister, or friend and say, hey, this guy Leo says he can do this. You better match it or I'm switching. 99% of the time, that guy, if they're smart, who has the account now, will lower the rates to what we presented to them and go from there. That's why I don't give out that information. If they say, how much can you save me a month? I'll give them a percentage or a dollar amount, but I do not do the math for them anymore.
Right.
I don't send them a fancy spreadsheet and say, I can do this, 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 and this, because they go back to their previous provider and they just stay there. So it's wasting your time.
Got it. Okay. Copy.
Right.
Hey, appreciate that.
Yep.
All right, we did have one more hand pop up. iPhone, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, thanks. Hey, Stu, let me ask, what was the number you said they might as well stay with Stripe or someone like that if they're under what? What would be the minimum amount?
I would, for you to make any money and us to make any money and DAC to make any money, if they do dual pricing, 5,000 is good, but if they're doing traditional pricing, depending on what they're doing, if they're doing $5,000 a month and, I mean, let me just do some quick math here. Let's say they're at, 50 basis points over cost, $5,000 times 0.25 or 0.50%. It's $25 in profit coming to the bank before I get my cut and I send it to DAC. So I would encourage everybody on this call, if you're not talking to if you're looking for accounts, you want to be in the 100,000 plus range, because and I've been doing it 22 years, so it's easy for me to talk to anybody, and I get that. But whether you're talking to $1,000 a month account or you're talking to a $10 million a month account, yeah, the $10 million account is going to be a little bit more sophisticated, but it's the same exact math.
Yeah.
You tell a $100,000 account, times 0.25%, I can knock you down from 500 to 250, or I can wipe out on $100,000 account. You're paying probably 2.5. So times 2.5%, they're paying 2,500 a month times 12. Now that's a $30,000 question. Do you want me to save you that? Do you want to put that 30,000 back in your pocket, or do you want to keep giving it to the processor? If you don't, then let's switch you to this kind of processing, the dual pricing.
All right, iPhone, you remuted, so I'll ask you to unmute in case you have a follow-up question, but you can stay muted if
That's fine. Thank you. That's a good answer. That works.
Yep. And if you ever have any trouble with that and you're in front of somebody that you think you've got a solid lead, call me on my cell phone. I've got a call this afternoon with one of your reps that is getting with somebody at a place in Missouri that she's not real comfortable at presenting these things, but sorry about that, guys. Hang on. That if you need my help or my guidance, if they're a good enough account and a large enough account, I can get on and tell them whatever I need to tell them. And it basically all comes down to one thing: get me your 3-month statements and I can review it. Because you can tell me anything you want on the phone and I'll help you any way you can. But if you're not going to provide the information, the bank's never even going to look at it. I'll look at it and I can guesstimate and say, hey, so here's about what we can save you. But by going and just throwing numbers at the bank, they'll laugh at me. So we got to have the statements.
All right, Hugh, that's it for hands up.
Okay. Anybody else? I think that's the best. That was a good session there.
Yes, definitely. Got a good 20 minutes. I think we can wrap it up there. If anyone obviously has any questions that come up, you can send them to support between the Thursday calls, and we can always get an answer from Hugh if needed. But otherwise, Hugh, if there's anything else you want to say, I think we can wrap it up.
That's it. Good selling, everybody.